Today, I'm talking to one of the top featherweight prospects in the country, and you can catch his next fight June 16th at CFFC 120 in Atlantic City, New Jersey. He joins me here right now, G2's Beau Samaniego. Beau, welcome, man. It's a true honor to have you.
What's up, man?
Hey, I wanted to first off just state for the record, like, I've been watching you compete for quite a while now, and I watched your documentary that's on YouTube, and that's something else. Like your gym, the people that are part of your gym, where you guys come from, it's like a scrappy. I don't know. It reminds me of like Rocky training in the woods and shit.
Yeah, it's really old school, man. It's not like a super updated gym, you know what I mean? It's like an old wrestling room and it's just gritty, you know what I mean? And I feel like the fighters that come out of there, they show that grit like in the ring, you know.
I wanted to talk about just a few of your teammates. I just kind of wanted to like level set. And for the record, for the very first CFFC fight I ever watched in my life in person, it was CFFC 107. And there's a special fighter that was on that card. His name's Isaac Watkins, RIP. I watched him fight, and I had a front row ticket to that. And I know it's been almost a year since his passing. And, I know it's a hard thing to talk about, but for people who don't know who he was, can you just talk really briefly about like what kind of fighter was he and how did he help elevate your game?
He's just the lefty killer, man. He's a young kid who was like more hungry than anybody I've ever met at that age. You know what I mean? And he was an extraordinary wrestler. Like when I say this, I really think like in the UFC right now, he could take anybody down in the UFC. I 100% believe that. Like he's with his work ethic and his genetics and like just natural ability, he was going to be a UFC champion for sure. And I wholeheartedly believe that.
In his passing, there's a lot that's been going on with you guys. Of course, there's Jose Perez, your other teammate. He's achieved a lot of success. You've gone on, you've achieved a lot of success. And in a way, do you feel like you're not only just like fighting for yourself in your gym, but like, do you feel like you're also like fighting for his family? Like you're out there like to represent him and like kind of who he was and what he was all about when you walk into the cage?
I mean, I got this shit tatted on my fucking chest. You know what I'm saying? I got Isaac's name tattooed on my chest just for that reason. Like, I know he's not here anymore, so he doesn't get the opportunity to represent himself like I know that he would. So it's really important to me that that I put on for him and like all his friends and his family and like represent him and make sure that he's never forgotten. Like, because someday fighting is going to be over, but I want to make sure that he goes down in the history books like as one of the greatest fighters, even though he didn't get to live his whole career out, you know?
There's a lot that's been going on with your gym. And you in particular, you're a prospect I've been keeping an eye on for quite some time. I think you're a special fighter. And you fought a really tough guy not that long ago. And number one, I was surprised you were taking the fight, all things considered, just because everything that was going on. That surprised me. And you're going up against a very, very difficult guy. Lawrence is no joke. I was hoping we could talk a little bit about that particular bout because you're talking about a guy who's very advanced, a guy that can give people a lot of problems. Like, what made that such a difficult fight for you?
I think really it was just his height. You know, he was so tall for being 145. I've never fought anybody that tall at 145. So he was super long. And one thing that the tape doesn't tell about him, his grip strength was like fucking crazy. I seen him on Instagram. He like rides bulls and shit, and I could definitely tell. Like there was one moment where I was on top of him, and he was just like holding my wrist, and I just could not get my wrist away. I was like, dude, this guy's grip is fucking crazy. But that's what I think. Like he was really good at just he's just a good all around fighter. You know, he's hard to finish and just in all aspects. You know, he's got good boxing, good jujitsu. So he'll definitely be back. I'm excited to see his next fight. I'm sure he'll be back for sure.
He's a really good fighter, and I could see like just because of his height, and I won't call him awkward, but I will use the word like tricky for him. I look at him and I'm like, I could
Yeah,
see how he would give people a lot of problems.
yeah.
And
You know what was weird about him? Not to cut you off, but he was super tall, but still had good head movement, which was like I wasn't very used to. He had like that boxing head movement. He was able to take his head off the line and be tall at the same time. You usually see them tall guys are like kind of fading back, and he was definitely a little unorthodox. Not really unorthodox, but not what I expected.
What was something about that fight? I always like to ask kind of like the good, the bad, and the ugly. Like, but for you, and I think we've already hit on a couple things that make him a difficult out. But what was something when you look back at the tape on that one that you were really happy about in terms of your performance?
Uh, really just I got to showcase like my grappling a little bit because I had that one slip up where I lost by submission. So I feel like ever since then, people have probably been like, the way to beat this guy is to submit him, you know what I mean? And I wanted to show like I've been grappling since I was like 6 years old, you know what I mean? And I train with like one of the best jiu-jitsu guys on the planet, Jose. And yeah, like I've gotten so much better at jiu-jitsu, and like Lance Lawrence was supposed to be a brown belt. I'm only a blue belt, and I feel like I almost submitted him a couple times. That Darce choke I had on was super tight. I don't know how he got out of that, but yeah, I was really happy that I got to show like that I do have some grappling. I've got a lot of grappling actually, and yeah, that's really it.
When I think of Jose Perez, I think of jiu-jitsu. But when I think of you, I think of just freestyle MMA. I think of a guy who really does everything really, really well. And I was hoping we could talk about Jose a little bit.
Yeah,
I believe Jose, when I think of regional MMA, I would put up his jiu-jitsu against anybody in the country. That's how good that guy is, and that's how
yeah,
advanced he is. And if you get down on the ground with him, whether he's you're on top of him or he's got top mount on you, you're in big trouble. That guy is going to figure out a way to end you. What
yeah.
does training with him? What does that do for your confidence when you're getting ready for these fights?
I just really know that, after going with him for so much, that if I ever end up in a bad position, like from jujitsu, whatever it may be, like the guy could have my back, could have me mounted. I'm pretty confident that he's not going to submit me or be able to hold me there because I go with that. One thing about Jose's jujitsu is you start seeing these guys nowadays, it's like it's more focused around the bottom game. You know what I mean? They're trying to catch submissions off the back and stuff. And Jose is really good at that too. He's like extraordinary in that too. But his jujitsu is like really based off the top game, like really old school jujitsu and like getting to those positions like side control, mount, the knee on belly, and controlling those positions for an extended period of time and making guys have to fight out of that. And I feel like it's really exhausting for people.
Yeah. And in terms of like your game, that's got to give you a lot of confidence. Like,
Yeah.
you grapple with him for a camp, and it's like your opponent isn't going to show you something that he hasn't already shown you in
Yeah.
terms of your camp and getting ready.
Yeah, absolutely. He's like, sometimes he pulls off shit in the gym where I'm like, he's crazy, dude. He's so good at jujitsu.
I was hoping we could talk a little bit about corner work. This is like a really interesting topic to me because the only time we can really hear what's going on is for like these like big UFC fights where they zoom in and you can actually hear a little bit about what the corner's telling the fighters. And
Yeah.
I was kind of curious, like for you, when you're in the corner and your coaches are telling you things, like what is that like for you? Like I know there's a lot going on in your mind. You're not only thinking about what hurts or what do I have to do, but like you're supposed to like intake information and hear what they're saying. And that's got to be like a learned skill, just sitting and trying to listen to what you're being told, and then to go back out and apply it in less than 60 seconds. That's got to be a really difficult thing to do.
Yeah. We were actually just talking about that the other day in the gym. Like, we were coaching some of the young guys, me and Jose, and like sometimes you like we'll call something out, like throw this combo, and then the guy's kind of hesitating because he feels like maybe the other guy heard what we're saying, you know what I mean? And he's like, so yeah, we were thinking about that. I feel like one thing with me is like I've always been I feel like me and Jose and his wife were just talking the other day about something, and it was like Jose comes out really like fast paced, and I feel like I come out kind of like the opposite, which is like total opposite for our personalities too. You know what I mean? Like he's the super laid back guy, and I'm more like the uppity guy. So it's kind of our fighting styles are like from that aspect they're like totally different. But I feel like I've always been like really like cerebral, like thinking, being aware of what's going on. Like, I'm not the type of guy, like if I hit a guy with a big shot and I see him start wobbling, I'm not going to rush in on him and try to get the kill right away. You know what I mean? I'm going to make sure like that this guy's hurt and that I have the opportunity to put him away. You know what I mean?
I want to shift and talk a little bit about Damion Nelson. This guy is 4-2. He comes out of a very good gym, Saralongo, and I'm looking at him and his two losses. So he's got 4-2 record. That's just kind of like, nothing special, right? Most people would think
Yeah.
that, but when you dig deep and you
But
look at
he's a
the
tough
guys
guy.
he's
Yeah.
lost to, he hasn't lost to chumps. Like he's lost to very high level fighters. I think Damion Nelson, I think he's a very good fighter. What makes him a threat to you? Like what makes him an interesting fight for you?
I think just his stand up. He's got good stand up like boxing, traditional boxing. He's got crisp punches. So I really believe like I'm kind of similar. You know, I've got really crisp boxing too, and I keep my hands up and like don't really get hit often. You know what I mean? I feel like it's hard to land a clean punch on a guy who's got really clean boxing like that. You know what I mean? Sometimes like I love kickboxing too, but sometimes you see like kickboxers, they don't really have a concept of like being protected while they punch as some of these boxers do. You know what I mean? And I train with pro boxers all the time, so I really think that my boxing is honestly a little better, but his is really good too. And I think he's gonna be in shape and he's coming off a loss, so he'll be hungry, ready to go. But I'm not overlooking him in any way. Like I'm taking him very seriously, and I'm ready to go. So
Were you surprised that he took the fight?
that's not really. You know, I saw him when Jose fought Frank Wells, and I just seen him, and he was kind of like looking at me, and I was looking like it was just the fighter like, yeah, I know you're in my weight class too, type of thing. So I knew he was like, I kind of respect that. I like guys like that. You know what I mean? That kind of like, I want to fight that motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like I like guys like that. So
Hey,
it's gonna be cool. I think he's a good guy, and it's gonna be cool.
Hey, I think he's a good fighter. I know what you're capable of. It's going to be a very, very interesting fight. For you, what are some of the things that you have to do in order to get this win over him in your mind?
Uh, I would just say make it a total mixed martial arts bout. You know, he's a really good fighter, but I feel like I'm just a little bit better, like in every area, in the boxing, in the wrestling, in the jujitsu. And if I feel like I start throwing all these different things at him, he's not really gonna be able to, one of them's gonna work eventually,
A win over Nelson puts you up at 6-1, and in regional MMA, when I think of records like that, I immediately start thinking about like, okay, well, this guy should be fighting for a title pretty soon. I understand the dynamic. I know you're not going to fight Jose, but what I will ask you is like, what makes sense for you after this? Like, hopefully his time's up. I hope I see him on Contender pretty soon, or just get called up right to the UFC because he's running out of people to fight. And when that happens, if that title gets vacated, a win over Nelson, that to me, I don't know. I'm just trying to line things up, and I don't see how you wouldn't be fighting for a vacant belt. I don't see
Yeah.
it. You got to be. You got to be the guy.
Yeah, I'm just assuming that Jose is gonna go to the UFC or some big promotion really soon. You know what I'm saying? I'm not really I'm I'm ready for whatever's next. You know what I mean? Honestly, right now, like if Jose doesn't get called up soon, I just want to do fights that people want to see. You know what I'm saying? Like whoever the fans want to see me fight and think is gonna be a exciting fight and is gonna get me those steps to the UFC, then those are the fights that I'm gonna take.
Well, I know that you're very close. You're a very exciting guy. And you look at that featherweight class in the UFC. Like, what are your thoughts about some of the people that are in that weight class? Like, how do you think you stack up against these guys? Like, is 45, is that where you see yourself at the next level as well?
Yeah, definitely at 45. There was actually some guys from like Illinois that fought on the card recently in the UFC, and I was like, I don't know how these guys got any, like, I mean, Jose's and me are so much better than those guys. Like I just seen like Kron Gracie's a great fighter, but I think I would fucking destroy him, and I think Jose would probably submit him like fairly quickly. So I don't know. I definitely like if those are the guys that are there at featherweight at like the lower like level right now, then I absolutely think that I deserve to be there. And yeah, it's only a matter of time before the cream rises to the top.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think you are both very special fighters. I think it's only going to be a matter of time until we see you compete at that next level. Beau, I wanted to give you the final word. I know that you have a lot of people that work with you to make sure that you're taken care of and you're able to go across the country and fight these big fights. So, who are the people that you need to thank, or who are the sponsors that you need to talk about before I let you go?
I just want to thank, my whole team, Gilbert Grappling, and everyone who's like supported me throughout my career and like follows me and wants to see me be successful in this. My girlfriend Cindy, I love her, my mom, my brothers, and yeah, that's it. All my friends. I got I got my
Oh
homies
wow,
living
we
right.
got an audience. Oh
Yeah, I
shit.
got an audience.
Oh wow. Well,
Yeah.
good thing you didn't tell me. Maybe this interview would have sucked if you did.
Oh no.
Hey man, well, I'm really looking forward, Beau, to watching you fight. Thank you for pulling up today, and I'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on and giving me like an opportunity to show everybody like what I'm all about and just put a spotlight on me. You know what I mean?